I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliet.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself, or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry. Hi, everybody.
This is Apologies Accepted,
the podcast.
And I'm not Theo.
And I am not Juliet. Quit confusing our voices.
We do sound so similar. So how's everybody's week been? Theo, what's shaking bacon?
Hey, it has been a fantastic week of work, but also my birthday weekend. So, my friend...
Happy birthday!
Thank you!
Yay!
Thank you! Thank you. I cannot hear it enough.
Again.
It is 18 several times over. Yeah. I remember turning 18 and how excited I was to turn 18. But then the target moved and it was like, I've got to be 21. And your target always moves, right? Now it's like,
that's right.
I've got to get to retirement.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had friends come out and we went out for dinner last night, which was great.
Where'd you go?
A restaurant with walls. We went to a place called Perla on Congress. And so here's my anti-commercial for Perla. I called them last week and I was like, hey, reservations, party of 4. No, sorry, we're all booked solid. Oh, okay, great. And then I called them on Friday thinking like, oh, maybe something's changed. And no, sorry, we're all booked solid. But, if you show up, we might be able to like let you sit outside and we might deign to serve you some, wine or something. Like, all right, cool. Maybe we'll go there for a drink. And so that was kind of our game plan. I wasn't really sure what to do with our guest. My friend Terry's been here several times. And then my friend Mario and Jim came with Terry, and they've been to Austin once. So I want them to like really experience the city. And we spent basically Friday through Saturday afternoon inside my house because we had dinner in Friday night and James made dinner and it was nice. But it was kind of like, well, you want to get out and you want to see things. So let's try and make that happen. And it just kept not happening, right? For a series of whatever delays. And so I was like, listen, we're going to go to Congress. It's a big walking district. There's tons of little bars and tons of little restaurants, and it'll be fun. And so we did that. And I was like, oh, here's Perla, the restaurant that didn't have any availability. And so Terry walked in to see if we could get like squeezed to a table outside somewhere. And no, they had plenty of tables inside. We got seated inside right away. Wow. No problem. So Perla, I don't know what the fuck is up, but
weird.
I need to fix that.
How was the food?
Oh, superb. I mean, I'll say for as poorly run as the reservation system is, they do make up for it with the food. So I had a bouillabaisse and it was heaven.
That sounds good.
But aside from that, I also got chocolate cake and chocolate cupcakes from Whole Foods. And I've got to say, holy moly, who knew that Whole Foods makes the best cake in the world? It was so incredibly good.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. And James was so jealous when...
Did he not let him eat any of it?
Well, so James also got me a cake from Whole Foods, coincidentally.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did.
Was it a chocolate cake too?
It was a chocolate cake with like vanilla cream cheese frosting. And it was good, but I kept raving about the chocolate cake. And chocolate cake isn't like my favorite cake, right? I mean, I like it, sure. Cake, but oh my God, it was so incredible. And
I'm going to have to get some.
I don't know what the difference was between the chocolate cake and the chocolate cake with cream cheese frosting, but yeah. So anyway, he was like, well, I'm really glad that Juliet sent you your favorite cake. So I'm sorry, James.
That's good that he was there for your birthday. When did he leave?
He left
England?
yesterday, and we left the house at 4:30 in the afternoon. Got in the car at 4:30 in the afternoon, which was exactly when he was supposed to be at the airport, which is 30 minutes away. So the whole time he kept telling me to drive faster. Hurry up, drive faster, right? And it's like, I'm doing 50 in a 35.
Oh, no.
I can't really go any faster than that. And not my fault that you decided to leave the house late. But there you go. Anyway, here I am complaining about James. So finally, he got onto the plane. And so now he's away for the next 10 days. And yes, he will be working like crazy. It'll be a very busy trip. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, we've all been busy at work lately. It seems like everybody's been working tons of hours and doing tons of stuff that's not so fun. So hopefully this is like some astrological time period or something where everyone has to work really hard, and then it will end like on Thursday, and the moon will go into Scorpio or whatever, and everything will be great.
You don't want that. That's weird sex vibes. That's bad times.
I don't know what a good sign would be for the moon to go into.
Pisces.
Pisces, yes. I like Pisces. So yeah, I've been, like I said,
yeah.
busy
And what about you? Shaking bacon.
Yeah, work is shaking. But I came to Arizona last weekend, which is why we had a repeat podcast. I don't know if anyone even noticed, but we had a replay of our Billie Eilish show last week because I was going to be driving to Arizona. And I thought I would be driving on Saturday and Sunday, but I ended up driving all day Saturday for like 14 hours to get here. And then on Sunday, I was completely, totally wiped out. But I am in Arizona now, and it's spring here. The flowers are blooming, starting to bloom anyway. I'm hoping I didn't miss all of spring and that it's just starting. So I'll get to see some more flowers before I go home. I don't know how long I'm going to stay here, probably another couple of weeks. But I am going to go to Sedona next week.
Oh, my favorite. Lucky.
Yeah, Sedona's nice. So I'll be going there just to check it out again. I've been there a bunch of times, but it's always nice to go back and look at the pretty things.
And do you get like tarot card readings when you're in Sedona?
Should I?
You should. It is the most mystical, magical city.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, I know that they've got those vortices and all that. I've been to some of those.
Yeah, that's Sedona's whole thing. It's a nice town for wealthy people who retire in and hang out in and all that. But there's like a shit ton of psychics that live there and work there and cater. There's a whole like crystal and gem and meditation and Reiki and I don't know, name some other psychic-y thing. It's all there.
I don't know. Do you do any of that stuff when you go?
No. I don't want people poking around in my head.
For a recommendation.
Her name is Susan Sylvia Smith, and she lives at 321 7th Street. She's amazing.
Okay. There's probably somebody living there who's going to be
His name is because I'm so psychic. I just magically picked that up.
No, I know they have a good yarn store, and whenever I go, I usually buy some nice yarn for my knitting. But I haven't been knitting in like 2 years.
A yarn store?
Yes, yarn is so pretty.
A store for yarn?
Of course. How else are you going to get yarn?
I don't know. You go to like Walmart or Target or something, and you go to an aisle.
That's the cheap, ugly yarn. No offense to anyone who buys their yarn at Walmart.
Oh, yeah. There goes half our listeners, our yarn audience.
But they have the most beautiful, beautiful yarns, and some of them in this one yarn store, I forget what it's called, they have like Sedona-themed yarn colorways. So they're like beautiful reds and blues and just nice. But and like I say, so the act of collecting yarn or buying
yarn.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. The act of collecting yarn is totally separate from the act of knitting. So I am a yarn collector more than I am a knitter. I buy yarn because it's so pretty. But when you knit it up, it looks different. And to me, it never looks as pretty. So I like to look at the yarn in the skeins. And I buy it and I put it, I have it here in Arizona on this table in the window. And so I put it out in bowls.
Okay, hold on. All right.
And then I never knit with it.
Stop. We have to go back like 10 feet, and you're going to have to walk me inch by inch through this, right? What is a skein?
Oh, that's what they come in, like the rolls, or the the things that they're wound in when they sell them. So they come to you in a skein.
You
buy them by the skein.
So I have an image in my head because my mother used to knit, right?
Okay.
And so, but I don't think she ever once talked about the beauty of yarn. More like, here's your mittens. Leave me alone. So is it like in that sort of a tube shape kind of thing?
It can be, yeah. It can be like that, or it can be like in a ball, which is also a skein.
Okay. All right. And so you're going to have to send me photos. Like,
I'll have to send you photos because some yarn is just so beautiful. It's just unbelievable. And especially when you look at like cashmere or alpaca or something like that, that's just so soft at the same time. But you knit it up and it gets itchy. So I like knitting because it gives me something to do. It gives me a way to distract myself from the misery of the world. But A, when I finish the product, it never looks good, in my opinion. And B, it never looks as good as the yarn looks in the skein. So I like buying skeins of yarn, but I haven't done it in a while because it's a big fat waste of money.
I will for sure agree with you there because I have never heard of anybody collecting yarn. Like if you had told me bubblegum wrappers, I could kind of see that because that's like packaging and product. And so, all right, yarn.
I'm going to send you a skein of yarn that will knock your socks off.
Oh, yeah. I'll take it as a threat.
Your breath will be taken away by the beauty of this gorgeous skein of yarn.
Skein of yarn.
Oh, God. And some of them are so expensive, like $80 or something, like just unbelievable.
Well, I literally, this is something I just never knew about you. You are certifiably insane.
Well, you already knew that, I'm sure. That's no secret to anyone, including my coworkers.
Do you talk to them about yarn? I'm never going to let this go. This is
not yet, but I should.
This is please do. This is my favorite happiness thing. It's so many skits about the girl that talks about yarn. Hey guys, how's your day been? Well, I don't know.
So that's when I go to Sedona, I probably won't be buying yarn this time because
you've been humiliated.
I don't need any more fucking yarn. I have so much yarn.
You know what's going to happen? You're going to send me a skein of yarn, and I'm going to be like, "Holy fuck, this is gorgeous!" And you're
going to have to start knitting because you're going to think that it's going to knit up just as pretty as it is in the skein, and then you're going to find out it doesn't.
No, I'll be forewarned. Right.
That's right.
Through your wisdom. But they will become my new pillows instead. Like instead of buying pillows.
You're going to have balls of yarn around the house.
This podcast is endlessly fascinating.
It is. I know. It's all about me. And I'm endlessly fascinating.
Well, that is true. That is very true.
So, happy birthday. I'm very glad you've made it to the advanced stage.
Oh, no, please. Let's forget about me and go back to yarn.
And I'm glad I was able to supply some delicious cake where James failed.
Yes.
And some
it is so
and
good.
I sent you the Elegance of the Hedgehog, which is one of my favorite books. It was kind of iffy about whether you were going to enjoy that book or not. You probably will never get around to reading it, but I think you might enjoy it. I really liked it.
I've got it right here. It was going to be my thank you at the end. That, and I also have the... and I will mispronounce. Oh, sorry, I'm moving very far away from the microphone. The Mercier and Campion?
Mercier and Campion. Yeah, that is a classic, which you should read. It'll take you 15 minutes to read. So I love that book. That book is just, it means so much to me. And I don't know if you'll get that or not, but it's amazing.
Is it about yarn?
I don't think yarn might come up, but I don't think it does.
Wow. Well, okay. I for sure am reading that, and I am in my reading chair.
Awesome.
In my bedroom as we record because I have guests who are in the guest room, and that's where my podcasting closet is. And so,
and you should tell everyone that you got that chair at a great discount.
Great discount.
It's a $1,500 Pottery Barn chair, which you found for like
$40 in Goodwill.
Amazing.
Hi, thank you, Goodwill. And OxyClean, because I had to like scrub the heck out of it with OxyClean. Not because I was like, oh, it's from a thrift store. But because it was filthy. It had.
Who knows whose dirty paws have been on this?
Oh, I know why they gave a white chair away, because they have to spend all their time cleaning it. But really, yeah, I can't wait to sit in it and read.
Awesome. Oh, you know what I did yesterday? This is a little tiny bit of news. I drove to, I won't say the name of the town, but it's like 40 miles away from here. It's the next closest town. This town that I'm in is like 1,200 people. And the town that I went to is even fewer people, I believe. But they have, because it's on a highway, they have like a McDonald's, and they have a Burger King and a Taco Bell and a Carl's Jr. and a Mexican restaurant, a couple Mexican restaurants, at a Dollar General, and they also have a hot dog truck which has Sonoran hot dogs. And I have been hearing about Sonoran hot dogs for a while now, and I've been wanting to try one. They're hot dogs wrapped in bacon on a bun with chili and guacamole.
Ooh, nice.
And sour cream and some other stuff. So when I drove by on my way here last weekend, I saw the hot dog truck, and I thought I need to go check this place out. And I did yesterday. I decided to go take a break from working and get a Sonoran hot dog. And I did, and it's a hot dog.
Oh, boo. It sounded like there were so many things around the hot dog itself that like they were disguising the fact there's a hot dog in it.
It's just a hot dog. It's a hot dog with stuff on it. I mean, it was just not that. I mean, it was good. The guacamole was really good. But a hot dog is a hot dog, man. I don't know what to tell you.
See, I'm not a big hot dog person.
Me either.
Maybe like
that's the problem.
Once a year, maybe
Yeah,
at a picnic
exactly.
or whatever with a lot of ketchup, and that's cool. But there was a place in LA called Okie Dog, which is long closed, and kind of the same thing. Was a hot dog and a burrito, but with like beans and guacamole. Yeah, so and
wow.
I loved Okie Dog, but I only ever went there like drunk at 3:00 in the morning, and that's probably why I loved Okie Dog. Yeah, but
that's probably what Sonoran hot dogs are for too. Being drunk at 3:00 in the morning.
But you have to drive there.
I drove there for 40 minutes or whatever, and then I get there and I go in and actually I get to the hot dog place and they're like, "Can you go inside the store and order this?" And then I go inside the store and they're like, "Oh, you need to go over behind this other counter and ask for it." And nobody spoke English. Everybody spoke Spanish. It was like literally nobody spoke English. They would speak to me in Spanish and I would answer them in English, and they understood. I mean, maybe they spoke English and they just didn't want to talk to me. Totally understandable. But so I waited for like 20 minutes for this hot dog that I didn't particularly even enjoy. But I did get to look around at all of the Mexican foods that were there. And they had so many flavors of Fritos and Doritos that you would never imagine, like chili and lemon and extra spicy and all kinds of stuff. It was really cool. I got some chili and lime, and it was fine.
So let me get it right. This town does nothing but disappoint. And it's 40 minutes away.
Yep.
Yeah. But the McDonald's, so.
But I was going to drive even farther to the next town, which is near Phoenix, Buckeye, which sounds about like what it is. And they have a Starbucks, but I didn't go. Would have been another hour to get there. So
holy Christ, an hour for coffee.
I know, right?
It's Starbucks
that's the worst
coffee.
thing about being here is that the coffee here sucks, and I basically can't have coffee while I'm here because any coffee I make sucks. Any coffee I buy here is going to suck. It's a sad desert town.
I'm glad you're there.
It's beautiful though. The mountains around it are gorgeous, and the desert is beautiful. So that part is really nice, and it's so quiet. Nobody but my neighbors bother me. Nobody but my next door neighbor who's constantly asking me why I never leave the house. So anyway, maybe we should talk about an apology.
Oh, well, all right, yes. So we did re-release our Billie Eilish episode in part because you were driving, we had birthday things going on, Brent was tied up. So yay, we all got a weekend off. And then it was also the Oscars coming up this weekend as we recorded will be this evening on Sunday, March 27th. Hooray. And Billie Eilish's song, No Time to Die, is up for Best Song. So cool. It felt like, all right, great. And now here we are talking about Jane Campion, who is also up for an Oscar, but then said some things and had to apologize.
Right. I didn't know Billie Eilish had a song up for an Oscar. That song sounds like it could be a Bond theme.
Oh, it was a Bond theme.
Okay.
Well, see, the song did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yes.
And so, hooray.
It should win.
And yes, and I think she'll win. I mean, I don't know what
I'm
else
back to
she's
liking Billie Eilish.
I re-listened to our re-released
Rebroadcast?
Billie Eilish
Yeah.
podcast. Yes, and I've got to say, I really, I'm kind of still on the fence, but she's tracking with what I expected to happen, which is a careful management of her public persona.
Yeah.
And so it'll be quiet for a few years while she grows and matures.
Right.
And she'll just release some albums and watch. She's going to like run down the street naked on fire,
She could.
backing people in the face. But anyway, yeah. So here we are, Jane Campion. What happened and
Jane
why?
Campion. She is a director, screenwriter, and producer from New Zealand. She was actually the first woman to be nominated twice for the Academy Award for Best Director, and I think that was for The Piano. She's also the first female filmmaker to receive the Palme d'Or for The Piano, which was 1993. I can't believe that was 1993. That was before I moved to California.
I went to the theater to see The Piano, and I drove myself in 93. Like I was a full functioning adult. How is that possible?
Yeah. Oh my God, right? So long ago. The Piano also won her the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. And an important item of note, which is not important to this podcast, but I think is important to understanding her, is that she is the daughter of an heiress.
Yes. Yeah. I was very surprised to find that out. That's not a big part of, I mean, it's not a Wikipedia page, but not a big part of the narrative around Jane Campion.
Yeah.
It's always like, I'm a female director.
But I had a really big head start in getting there.
Yeah. But, I mean, having said that, there are plenty of people with a ton of money who enter the arts and never do anything. So she is truly a talent.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying she's not talented. I'm just trying to think about people with a ton of money and all the things they can do with their spare time. How nice that would be.
You need a ton of money, right, to go pursue an art degree.
Pretty much.
Few people get a liberal arts degree who don't have access to some level of privilege.
I think, I'm not going to argue with you. I think that may be true. I don't know. It would be interesting to see studies about that.
Well, let's do that now.
Getting to college is hard enough for many people. And
That's true.
Once you get to college, you got to pay for it. So there's that. If you get there on a scholarship, are you going to study liberal arts? I don't know. You might.
I did.
But did you have a scholarship?
I did.
I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Yeah, grants and scholarships, and I pickpocketed people too in order to get all the money. Of course. Yeah,
we all did that.
And so, the short answer is yes. And then, you go into that knowing you're never going to make any money. The most you're going to be able to do is like teaching. But there's always the hope that like I'll be the next Jane Campion, right? If I go into film or whatever. Anyway, completely side railed, but we'll say.
Speaking of Jane Campion.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago today, on Sunday, March 13th, Jane won a Critics' Choice Award for Best Director for the movie Power of the Dog, which Wikipedia describes as a Western psychological drama. Now, I have not seen this movie. I might see this movie. I probably won't because I don't see much of anything. But have you seen it?
I have seen it. And I saw it for two reasons. One, because it was Jane Campion. And two, because everybody was talking about Benner. That's not his name. It's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to say. And the performance that he gave and just how outstanding it was. And I was like, I want to see that because I have very much an image in my head of what kind of role he typically plays. And so let me see him in something different. And I will say, excellent job. Amazing job.
So he plays in this movie kind of a creepy old dude, right?
He plays. So the story about the Power of the Dog is there's a woman who works as a waitress in a like Western town, but very frontier Western town, right? Late 1800s, very gunslingery kind of thing. But she's got a certain measure of decorum and feels like a hardworking 20th century, 21st century single working mom, right? And she's got a kid who's a little quiet and keeps to himself and draws pretty pictures. And so, big sissy boy is what they call him in the film. Oh. And there's a family, and they own a ranch. And it's a big ranch, and they're the most wealthy, important people in this western town. And two brothers have inherited the ranch from their parents. And one of the brothers falls in love with the waitress and marries her and becomes a stepdad to the son. Well, he lives in the same house with his brother, and his brother is kind of like the lead cowboy. And his brother starts making fun of the kid in front of all the other cowboys, right? And the brother is jealous of the mother, and so the brother starts making the mother's life holy hell, and he drives her to drink, right? So she ends up becoming like a secret alcoholic. And it turns out, though, because it's all about secrets, who's got secrets, it's the whole movie, right? Who's got secrets. And it turns out that while the kid might be gay, and probably is, the brother is gay and hiding it. So it's that classic homophobic move of, I'm going to make the gay person's life miserable so that nobody looks at me that way. Right? So cool. Well, the kid goes away to college, and he comes back, and he's studied biology. He wants to become a doctor. And I'm not going to give anything away here, but we're going to say that the kid, we call him the kid, the son, and the brother end up forming a friendship/partnership. The brother starts to see like, oh, this kid's kind of tough. He's putting up with all this bullshit for years. And the son discovers some dirty magazines that belong to the brother, right? Of like,
they're gay magazines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Muscle Guys, like 1800. Yeah. Maybe it was early 1900s, but so whatever. The son then ends up with some power over the brother, but because of like the gay thing, they kind of bond and sort of end up becoming friendly with each other. And I'll have to stop there because I really don't want to spoil it, but I will say that I didn't see the end coming. I got it when it happened, and I was like, wow, really good. But the movie was a little long. It was, sorry, Jane, here I'm going to criticize your film, and then I'm going to criticize you. A little long, a little draggy. I got a little bored with it. Parts of it were uncomfortable to watch. It was the mom secret drinking stuff because you just felt so bad for her, right? And so yeah. But a powerful film. I mean, at the end of the day, and that same kind of tonal quality that was present in the piano, where it's just sort of like the pressure of life and the need to conform, and how that can warp a person's experience in life, how those expectations can really be unfair, and then how people break free of those expectations and find free, blah, 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 blah. So very arty, but good.
I'm going to ask you a question you may not know the answer to. How do you know if someone is a good director?
Well, typically they win an Academy Award. No. A good director is able to take a really shitty script where people say the most mundane things in the world and present it in a way through encouraging the actors to deliver their lines with different motivations, right? So, hi, how are you this morning? Most boring, mundane thing in the world, right? But okay, now you are saying that to your mother over the breakfast table, but imagine that your wife just died and you're turning to the man that killed her. That's how you're going to say, hi, how are you to your mother. Wow. Right? So a good director is able to get these subtle, I just used the word I wanted to use, these subtleties, these subtle overtones. You don't have a subtle overtone, but you get the point. They're able to draw things out of a script, and then they're able to draw emotions out of the actors. And then they're able to work with editors in such a way where they can say, I don't want a medium shot of her crying. I don't want a close-up of her crying. I want an overhead shot of her. You know what I mean? It's like they could really just direct.
Do people usually go to school to become directors?
Well,
they just direct.
They do, but probably one of the most famous directors, Steven Spielberg, was kicked out of film school, Long Beach. Hey, for I know it wasn't for not being good, but he did get kicked out, and I forget the details around that. And
it seems like you'd have to have an understanding of the history of film in order to really know how to do some of that stuff. Like what kind of shot would be appropriate, or, what's the background of all types of such and such? How's it been used in the past, and what are you referring back to, and all that kind of thing.
Well, I think, I would say if you have an innate understanding of storytelling, but you are right in that you have to have an understanding of film. So maybe you don't necessarily need to know what a medium shot is called, or who invented the X, Y, or Z, right? But you just have a sense of like how to pace pictures and sound in a way that will lead people on an emotional journey that will be surprising or uplifting or sad, right? But the idea is that every emotion has an intention. And so at the end of it, after you've gone through this roller coaster ride of emotions, you walk out with a thought. And that thought is something that you think about more. It's art. It's art. It just goes everywhere.
I love this podcast because we get to talk about things that neither of us have any background in.
Right, and sound like
we know
experts.
What we're talking about. And I'm like, I totally believe you and all of this. It sounds perfectly fine. It makes absolute sense.
1,000%. Having lived in LA for nearly 30 years with nothing to do with the entertainment industry at all, it is what people talk about. It's in the air, and you just pick this bullshit up. Like, San Francisco's very techy. You probably understand so much about tech just from standing in line at a coffee shop or going to parties and the things people talk about.
Or for my job.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, you are in the industry.
I'm kidding. I'm just teasing you.
I know, but I forgot that was your job.
So Jane, in her Critics' Choice Award, while winning her Critics' Choice Award for Best Director, as we were just talking about, for Power of the Dog, said, "It's absolutely stunning to be here tonight among so many incredible women." And then she praised Halle Berry, who was an honoree as well. And then she turned to Venus and Serena Williams, who have their story told in the film King Richard, for which Will Smith won Best Actor, and said, "What an honor to be in the room with you. I've taken up tennis. I truly have. And Will, if you want to come over and give me lessons, I would truly love it. I actually had to stop playing because I've got tennis elbow." For like, what? Who cares? This whole thing, this annoyed me before she even got to the part that was really annoying. Like, who cares if you've taken up tennis? Why are you asking Will Smith to give you tennis lessons when Venus and Serena Williams are in the room? I mean, they're not going to give you lessons because they've got better things to do with their time. But why are you asking Will Smith, of all people? And then, who gives a shit that you've got tennis elbow? This has got nothing to do with anything. But anyway, she went on to say, "Venus and Serena, you're such marvels. However, you don't play against the guys like I have to." And social media had a fit. Of course, because Venus and Serena have earned multiple titles in mixed doubles competitions, playing, of course, against men. But even if that weren't the case, what is the point of a comment like that? Why, when you have a platform, because you won an award, would you want to use it to pull someone else down?
Well, so I did watch that clip of her speaking, right?
Yeah.
And I could feel like I got what was happening. She was just very in the moment, and she probably didn't really know what she was going to say. And then she saw Venus and Serena, and she was like, "Oh, wow, here are these two tennis legends." And, "Oh, okay, great, got it. I'm going to compare my inability to play tennis, where they are stars, right? And contrast that against what I actually do and why I'm up here, which is I'm here to get this award for directing." And I think, was it a backhanded compliment? I could tell that she meant to say something nice to them, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. But in the room, people applauded, and people of color applauded, right? So there was not this immediate knee-jerk reaction of people in the room being like, "Oh my God, how could you say something like that? You horrible person."
Right.
However, I think it was Serena Williams had a look on her face, kind of became a meme for a while, where it was like she was smiling, but you could tell she was only doing it to be polite.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was foot and mouth. That's all that happened. A wealthy white woman put her foot in her mouth. Oops. But it does get onto bigger things, clearly.
Well, Serena Williams has actually said, no matter how far we come, we get reminded that it's not enough. And that must have been her response to what Jane Campion said. I mean, it's like she's just saying, well, you sure you got this great career, but you haven't played against men. It's just, I think it's got to be frustrating for both of them. I know that it seems like they've forgiven her and they're not mad at her. And maybe Jane Campion had good intentions, but the whole thing was just cringe.
Oh, it's very cringe, right? And so for me, because I can take this back to 1993, if Jane Campion had said that exact same thing in that exact same situation, and we would not be talking about Venus and Serena Williams, right? We would be talking about gender inequality and how it's unfair that female directors have to compete against male directors, but female actors don't compete for Best Actor against men, right? You have a female Best Actor category and a male Best Actor category.
I think they should compete against men. I think it should be equal across the board. I think everyone should compete on the same playing field. And I think that actually in sports too, which is probably wrong, but maybe not. But I think everyone should play against everyone else.
Everybody should play to the best of their abilities, and it should be about one's ability and not about one's gender, right?
Yeah.
But, at the same time, Hollywood is an old boys club. Directors are largely male because it's a boys club. And yeah, so it did, this whole situation did start me thinking about the filter through which we are today, like we, the culture, we, white people, me, I've been handed this new filter to look at things through. And it's interesting because it seems so obvious now, but at the same time, it's like, well, I lived through that. I was an adult and it felt obvious then too, but we were just missing all this stuff. So, the Williams sister.
I think that's your perspective as a white male. I think it's different for women and black people.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Right. And so, and we'll see where we land with this, but for me, it's an interesting thing is happening in our culture. So right now we are re-looking at people who were maligned in the 90s and seeing their stories in a different light and understanding how sexism and misogyny painted them as the villain. So I will present you Lorena Bobbitt, who was, a victim of domestic abuse and in a very unhappy, controlling marriage, who one night just had enough and attacked her husband with a knife and famously cut off his penis and then drove away and threw it out a window, right?
Yeah.
And nobody ever once during that period thought of her as like, oh, this poor woman, this reaction that she's had to this extreme. No, it was like, she is a crazy, evil person. Isn't she terrible? And then Tanya Harding, right? Who's had a little bit of a reemergence, I guess is the word I could use. But her story is being re-examined, and well, sure, she was cast as a villain, but she was also cast as a villain because she is from a different class of people than typically participated in ice skating, right? And so that same filter where we can pick it up and look at Tanya Harding or look at Lorena Bobbitt and see them as victims as well, right? Yeah, you did this thing, okay, but you were also a victim. We're now able to do that with things like Jane Campion and what she has said about Venus and Serena Williams. Once upon a time, her remarks would have gone straight to gender inequality. Race would have never become a part of it. So I don't say that this is a bad filter. I think it's wonderful. But it is also interesting to me that as a culture, we're able to see things more holistically, more nuanced. Yeah. We're able to pull other things into it.
Yeah.
And so what I would say would be Holly Berry at the Critics' Choice Awards this year received an award for See Her. It was the See Her Award, and it's given to women who push boundaries, right? And Holly Berry's acceptance speech was really what Jane Campion should have given, right? And so I will now give Holly Berry's acceptance speech.
Okay.
And you're welcome in advance. She's talking about women. We will use our emotional intelligence and we will tell stories that don't fit preconceived notions. No, we will tell stories that see us fully in all our multitudes and contradictions because we are confident and we are scared. We are vulnerable and we are strong. We are beautiful and we are abused. We are everything and all of that, and all at the same time. Because if we deny our complexity, then we deny our humanity. We won't always be pretty, and we will never be perfect. But what we will be is honest and true, no matter how uncomfortable that makes you. These are stories that we have to fight to tell. These are the stories that the world needs to see. So to every little girl who feels unseen and unheard, this is our way of saying to you, we love you and we see you, and you deserve every good thing in this world. What a gorgeous speech, right? And I would say it applies to Jane Campion sticking her foot in her mouth behind a microphone. She is an intelligent, smart, accomplished woman, and also said something incredibly fucking stupid and incredibly insulting.
Oh, I think that's an interesting speech from Halle Berry. I don't think it's particularly. I don't know what the word would be. I'm looking for
applicable.
I don't think it's no. I don't think it's particularly deep. I mean, we hear this a lot. We're this and we're that and we're that and that we're this, and I think it kind of gives people the if you're going to use it, if you're going to apply it to Jane Campion, then you're kind of giving Jane Campion, you're kind of letting her off the hook.
Well,
and I don't think she should be let off the hook. I mean, I guess I say that at the same time that I am a flawed person and I would like to be let off the hook for all the things that I do wrong. But
like what?
I think on the other hand,
one thing you've ever done wrong.
By not letting Jane Campion off the hook, we're not damaging her in any way. She's never going to be affected by anything that I say. So I think it's okay. And I think that even if people criticize her in the media, it's not going to damage her very much. So so we should go ahead and call out people where they need to be called out.
Oh, absolutely.
Of everybody.
Right. But again, with this filter and holistically, right, also understand like where people are coming from. And not so much intention, because intention doesn't excuse, but, well, I mean, let's see, because I don't think I can say this great, big, beautiful package that I have in my brain that's all wrapped up with a big bow on it that just ties everything together. I can't say it in a sentence. I have to say it in an entire 30 minutes in our podcast. So I hear what you're saying. And, so sort of like, what is it that Jane Campion did? For those of our younger listeners, what she did when she said, hey, Venus and Serena, you don't have to compete against men the same way that I do, is she completely discounted their achievements. But two, she also discounted the fact that they are Black and they struggle in ways that Jane Campion does not. Just getting onto a tennis court when they were children, right? And so the reason that Venus and Serena were in the room was there's a biopic that's up
Right.
for
King Richard.
I think, it's Will Smith is up for Best Actor, right?
Yeah.
And Will Smith is the only person of color who's up for Best Actor this year, right?
Oh, wow.
And Jane Campion is the only woman who is up for director. Now, I'm going to take us back a little bit to this point of reimagining people's, not reimagining, it's kind of reinterpreting, but taking villains and seeing them not necessarily as entirely, is villainic a word? Villainous.
A what a word?
Villainic.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Sure. It's my podcast and your podcast too. If you agree, then it's a word. No, but so their dad was seen as this horrible man who forced his daughters to play tennis, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even perceived as abusive, right? He was going to force them to become tennis stars. He didn't know anything about tennis himself, right? Well, now this biopic does not see him as this villainous man who is forcing his daughters to become tennis stars because he wants to be rich. It's seeing him as a loving father who is demanding excellence of his daughters, but also letting them know that like they're deserving of excellence and they can give it to themselves, right? So this is a reinterpretation of the past viewpoint of Richard Williams, where abusive, horrible dad, now the champion of his daughter's strength, right?
Huh.
And I would put him now in the same category as Lorena Bobbitt and Tanya Harding, which is this horrible person that everybody shit on. Who now we're seeing him in more of a holistic way. There was a beautiful, sort of not connected, but it is. There was this really beautiful thought piece in the New York Times on March 16th by a writer named Wesley Morris, who is a black art critic. And the reason I mentioned his race is that he talks about being black and being discounted in the arts, right? And the piece is short, and he talks about going to an art gallery and looking at a black artist, Faith Reingold, work, and standing in front of a very large mural, right? And two white women come and stand in front of him, having a very loud conversation about real estate. And he asked them to move, and they turned to him and said, "Oh, you have our deepest apologies. We are so sorry." And then stood there for a few moments and then moved, right? And his view was sort of entitled white women not even appreciating the work and effort of a black artist or of a black patron, right? And I do wonder if those white women would have, what their interpretation of that situation was this a man telling them what space they can and cannot occupy, right? Either way, he concludes his piece, and again, it's a really, really interesting thought piece, and he concludes it. He's again talking about Venus and Serena. Even though Campion's errant backhand had flown wide, the room lurched into cheers. Some of the applause came from Serena Williams, who has watched many a shot sail long. I had to desist further thought about the meaning of Campion's aside. It was too confused. Was this a wish for the establishment of gendered guardrails for directors at award shows, or the elimination of such distinctions in sports? Are there no men to be contended with in tennis? The line separating this argument from accusation and from self-aggrandizement was murky. I thought instead about the cost of the murk. Sunday afternoon, the Williamses got dressed up to celebrate some art, and somebody stood before them and challenged the validity of their membership here in Campion's restricted vision of sisterhood. The next day, Campion gushed an apology. These slips and slights and presumptions have a way of lingering, though. Their underlying truth renders them contrition-proof. These incidents aren't rare in Fantasyland, and therefore don't warrant a constant spotlight because standing in its glare is exhausting. But Venus, her face does something as Campion speaks, a knowing cringe. She and her family came out to soak up more of the praise being lavished on art about their life. They were invitees turned suddenly into interlopers, presenting 1 minute, plunged through a trap door the next. Faith Reingold would recognize the discomfort. She painted it over and over. Run, you might get away, but you probably won't. And Run, You Might Get Away is the title of one of Reingold's pieces that that Mr. Wesley was standing in front of. Mr. Morris, sorry, Wesley's first name, was standing in front of when the two white women got in front of him and, disregarded him. And so, and I'm making this very much two sides to every story, and I don't mean to do that. I'm more just about this holistic filter that the culture now has handed us, or now we can appreciate nuance, or maybe it's just now Black voices are heard and matter.
Well, I think that's legitimate, and Jane Campion herself kind of stood up for certain people when she talked about the Sam Elliott's comments on the on Power of the Dog. So what he said at the I don't know where he said it, but when she was at the Directors Guild Awards,
WTF podcast.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was a podcast.
It was a podcast. It was a very big podcast. But at the Directors Guild Awards, she kind of snarked at his criticism of her movie. He had said, "Where's the Western in this Western? I took it fucking personal, pal." And then complained about everything from the way Benedict Cumberbatch wore chaps in the movie to the fact that the movie was shot in New Zealand. And he went on to say, "They're all running around in chaps and no shirts. There's all these allusions to homosexuality throughout the fucking movie." And Campion said, "I'm sorry, he was being a little bit of a bitch. He's not a cowboy, he's an actor. The West is a mythic space and there's a lot of room on the range. I think it's a little bit sexist." Now, I don't know why she chose the word sexist as opposed to homophobic. Maybe she just said the wrong thing, but maybe it is sexist and I'm missing it. But those comments that she made that got her a lot of positive attention on social media before she made the comments about Venus and Serena.
Right. And I was a little bit like, oh, wow, Jane, you called it, a bitch is sort of like, I mean, fine, go ahead and use that word. But
yeah, that's a good point.
I
hadn't thought of that.
I wish you hadn't. But I liked her point about, the West is a mythic space and there's plenty of room on the range for lots of different stories. And, for sure, I got that. I don't know. I mean, Sam Elliott, very Trumpy to me. So whatever he has to say, I don't know that he is, but I think that he is. I think he's a lot Trumpy, but I could maybe Google that, but I'd rather just blame him.
Could.
It's easier just to hate him.
I really liked him in that movie with Jeff Goldblum. God, what movie was that? Everyone's screaming the name of it at me, but I'll think of it later. But so I'm disappointed to hear that he's Trumpy. But
now I have to. Sam Elliott.
It wasn't Jeff Goldblum either. It was not Jeff Goldblum. Oh God, it was the movie with John Goodman, the really big one, the dude.
Oh, the dude, yeah. Okay, no, take it back. He supported Joe Biden.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. I don't feel bad then.
All right, yeah. So hey, Sam, it looks like I owe you an apology for thinking you were Trumpy, but it's the homophobia and the misogyny and the xenophobia.
That's lead one to believe you're a little Trumpy.
Yeah.
But what's your problem there, Sam Elliott?
Because he had an issue with Jane Campion being a woman directing a Western, sort of like, you have no need to be here, little lady. And then also, she's from New Zealand, so what does she know about the Wild West? Hi, do you know anything about the history of New Zealand?
Right?
Hi. Yeah, it was a little Western down there, too. Haven't you seen the piano? That was the whole thing about this movie.
So he may be a Biden supporter, but he's an idiot.
Fair enough. So in that way that, my brain just shut off. Jane Campion kind of discounted Venus and Serena. She is getting a taste of her own medicine, and that's not a good thing. I'm not happy for this, right? So, in the New York Post, there's a piece that some members of the Academy are saying that Jane Campion is going to win Best Director, and the reason why is the Oscars are not going to nominate another white male for Best Director when there's a single female in the same category, right? So they're going to give the prize to her because she's a woman, which completely discounts all of her efforts. But here, let me read this to you. The Power of the Dog director Jane Campion stuck her foot in her mouth with her comments about tennis legends Venus and Serena Williams at the Critics' Choice Award on March 13th. But insiders told the Post she still will win an Oscar on Sunday because the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences is determined to give the award to a woman. If the director of Coda, which is that movie about a hearing girl and a family of deaf people, if the director of Coda had been nominated, Jane might be in trouble, said one of the Oscar voters, a female director. I think it's Cian, S-I-A-N?
Cyan?
Cyan Heder. That's probably her name.
Oh, S-I-A-N?
Yeah. Is it Sean? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Irish spelling. Listen, Ireland.
I think it's Sean.
But Sean wasn't, so Campion's fine. Echoed a second voter. Not giving it to the only woman out of 5 directors would be a much bigger non-PC statement than what Campion did. Now, this sort of like, you're only getting it because you're a woman is also the same thing that's happening for Will Smith. Oh, you're only getting it because you're black. And so it seems like people really like to discount the efforts of others or reduce people to, it's Jane Campion could be getting this because it was a very good film. It almost could have been directed by a man. Thank you for laughing. I was like, oh my God, if she doesn't laugh, I'm in so much trouble.
You had such a straight face when you said it, too.
I know, that was what made it even funnier. And it's true. So Campion's going to win, hopefully, probably. She will be one of only 3 women in the entire 97 years of the history of the Oscars to win for Best Director. And we will have to thank Catherine Bigelow for breaking that barrier in 2010 for The Hurt Locker.
Good.
Chloe Zhao last year for Nomadland. And I'm very sorry about what I said about how that film got boring. But it kind of did. But it also...
I haven't seen any of those films.
Like I said way back when, Nomadland did reframe Trump supporters for me and gave me an understanding of them. It did what movies are supposed to do. It allowed me to see things in a different way. They got through my own barriers and my own filters and allowed me to think and empathize. And even though I might not necessarily agree with everything, and Sam Elliott, here's an idea for you. Maybe you could watch Power of the Dog, and instead of being like, why are all these Chippendale dancers running around with their shirts off? Instead say, gosh, it must have been really hard to be a gay cowboy, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh gosh, it's really hard to be different. I don't know. But
good point.
But yeah, and so we've got this filter and we all need to use it to look at ourselves. There's my package. I did it. Hooray for me.
You wrapped that up nicely. Thank you.
You are welcome. And America is welcome too.
Wave a little flag. I used to have a teacher in 12th grade or whatever, who was an AP American history teacher, and he would, whenever anybody said something like that, like America, such and such is good for the world and good for America, he would draw a little American flag on the paper next to the comment that the person had written. So as a joke, like, saying, you're waving the flag. So I thought that was funny.
Was that Dr. Hill?
No, it was some dude who I don't remember his name. Fred somebody.
Oh, yeah. Wow, you know your teacher's first name. Oh, I guess I knew Emily Warner. Oops. Yeah, I could say her name. I knew her first name. She was a great teacher.
The reason that we're here is because Campion apologized.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about her apology. She said on March 14th, the day after she made her original comment, as Theo said, she said, "I made a thoughtless comment equating what I do in the film world with all that Serena Williams and Venus Williams have achieved. I did not intend to devalue these two legendary black women and world-class athletes. The fact is, the Williams sisters have actually squared off against men on the court and off, and they have both raised the bar and opened doors for what is possible for women in this world. The last thing I would ever want to do is minimize remarkable women. I love Serena and Venus. Their accomplishments are titanic and inspiring. Serena and Venus, I apologize and completely celebrate you." So responses on social media were not particularly appreciative. Entrepreneur Issa Watson said, "Jane Campion is what you get when you have live a life of unchecked privilege, less interested in apology and more interested in why her brain thought it was okay to make the statement in the first place." And Jodie Turner-Smith, who is an actress that I don't know, which means nothing. She attended the event with her husband, Joshua Jackson, who I also don't know, with also means nothing, tweeted, "Jane taking time out of her Best Director speech to tell two black women that she is more oppressed with them is peak white feminism."
Yeah, I gotta say.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. And really, there's no reason for Campion to make a comment like that in the first place, except to elevate herself and her achievement by putting someone else down. It was completely unnecessary, besides being inaccurate.
Exactly, right? And again, the move was, and 20 years ago, this would have been the move. It would have been, oh, wow, yeah, it is hard for a female director in this industry. Oh, wow, women versus men. Yeah, but that is what she did. She diminished somebody else's accomplishment in order to elevate her own.
And I think you may be right that it would have been different 20 years ago, but I have to say that is one of my pet peeves, people saying what it would have been like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, because I don't think that they really know. And when I look back on where I was 20 years ago, I often come up with something different than what the people are saying would have happened 20 years ago. So I think maybe, of course I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I guess that's my point.
Well, I will not be the one to tell you that you were wrong.
How dare you even bring the subject up?
I didn't. You're wrong.
Let's talk about the apology. What do we think about her apology?
I mean, I love Jane Campion. I love that she's artistic and thoughtful and that she brings something to film that's kind of missing, right? Big idea. She's not afraid to be artistic. It's the weakest. I mean, for me, it's a 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think she says she was thoughtless, but I think her comment was worse than thoughtless. I think it was definitely thoughtless, but I think that just shows how insidious racism is among white people.
Yep.
So racism, of course, is an expression of deep beliefs that someone has but may not necessarily have considered, and that's why they still have them. But obviously, I like to think if they considered them, they would think differently. But thoughtlessness is not an excuse for a racist comment, but the opposite. So, in my opinion, and there wasn't even any acknowledgement of racism in her statement. She didn't say that her statement was racist. It was maybe alluded to in the mention that the Williams sisters are black, but I think she should have apologized for the racism and sexism in her statement. And I think that her comment, "the last thing I would ever want to do is minimize remarkable women," is obviously false, as that was the only purpose of her comment, as far as I can tell. And I think that the statement was as thoughtless as the comment, and that the Williams sisters deserve better. So I give it a 3 out of 10. And I only give it 3 points because she said that their accomplishments are titanic and inspiring, which is true.
The part that really irks me in this, other than it's kind of I like the word milquetoast for this, but I think that's just because she's British. It's a milquetoast apology. It's where she ends saying, I apologize and completely celebrate you.
Yeah.
We don't need you to celebrate them. I apologize. Full stop.
Yeah, sufficient.
Right? I was wrong. There's so many, and you've won awards for screenwriting, so we know you know how to write. So maybe what you do is, and mind you, I say this as somebody who's a writer who sits down in front of a microphone and opens his mouth, right? I could write this podcast, it would be a very different thing.
Right.
But it's because you can put it down on paper and then come back to it and then say, don't make that joke, right?
Yeah.
So she should have sat down and she should have written something out. And, maybe quietly reach out and apologize to Venus and Serena, who don't need your apology and don't care. You're just another person who's diminished them because of their color and their sex. Fine. Sadly, they're probably used to it, but they've triumphed over it. Hooray. But I don't know. Again, it's this filter, because Jane Campion's going to get a ton of shit for winning an award tonight. Hopefully she wins, right? And that shit is going to be, well, you won it because you're a woman at the end of the day. And, the world's so PC now, right?
Right.
Which completely diminishes her work and puts her in the same situation that she, I'll say inadvertently, but I think you raise a really good point, which is racism is so insidious. It's just hard. It's not hardwired into our brains in terms of biology. It's hardwired into our brains because the culture we grew up in. Yeah. Exactly. We were trained. Right. We're trained to think that way. And it's automatic. And when you catch it, you should call it out. And she doesn't do that. And I get it, because, nobody wants to jump up and say, I said something racist.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Unless it was funny.
And we give it a 3.25, that apology. So, sorry, Jane Campion, you may be a great director, but you're not a great apologizer.
No. As say we, the Academy Awards of apologies.
That's right. That's what we are, really. I mean, who else would be?
Nobody else is doing this.
There's no one else doing this, so it's just us. All right, so Theo, who's sorry now? Or do you have an apology expected?
I have, you know what? I'm going to go with an apology expected.
Okay.
I originally had said I have a who's sorry now, where it's not really a very good one. I got real drunk at a Christmas party at a friend's house, and they had a piano, and it covered under a bunch of stuff, and I made them move all this stuff so that I could sit down and do a concert performance, right? Because I thought it was going to be really funny to get everybody around the piano and then play horribly, because I don't know how to play, right?
Oh my God.
And it was, but I sure acted like I knew what I was doing. And anyway, everybody thought it was funny. It's not an apology. So I would say that every Republican on the Judiciary Committee this last week owes an apology to, I don't know that I can say Justice Brown yet, because I think justice is only for the Supreme Court, but Judge Brown,
Yeah.
You guys, it's beyond disgusting. Just, and it's intentional, right? Like they know they're being racist, asking for somebody's LSAT scores, right?
Yeah.
Please, I'd like to see Kavanaugh's. If we're going to do that, let's do that, right? By the way, I'd also like to do blood alcohol readings at random.
Yeah, totally.
And I'll pick the day. Oh, I guess that's what random would be.
Random means you don't pick the day. You do it at random.
That's my apology expected is for...
That's a good one. I like it.
Only behavior.
We're not going to get an apology.
Intentional
but I
racism.
think there should be one.
Oh, I'll bet you like 20 years from now it'll be... I didn't have the whole... The I can't think of the word that's wholesome. What's the... Not a wholehearted. What's the... Holistic. Huh? That's it.
Oh, holistic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's because it starts... I just never...
With the W.
Yeah. I had to go through every fucking word. With? What? Which? Why? What? Okay. And what about you? Apology expected or who's sorry now?
I have an apology expected, and it's a future. Well, I guess they all are future apology expected. But so the thing that's going to happen that is going to deserve an apology in the future is that this company called Waymo has self-driving cars, and they're going fully driverless in San Francisco. So it's been testing these cars with safety drivers sitting behind the wheel since 2009, but they're going to get rid of the safety drivers at some point. They haven't said when, but they're going to get rid of the safety drivers and just have the cars driving themselves around the streets of San Francisco. So there's going to be an apology coming for that, I tell you.
Oh, it sounds totally safe. I can't imagine anything ever going wrong.
Right? So these cars have actually been fully driverless in Phoenix suburbs since 2018, which I was surprised to hear, including Chandler, Tempe, Mesa, and Gilbert. They use, like I said, they use backup drivers, but some drivers in these areas are fully driverless. And a CNBC reporter wrote about taking one of these driverless cars and mentioned that the car parked in fire lanes and also came to a screeching halt for a pedestrian at one point when it was only going 7 miles an hour. So... Perhaps not technology that's ready to be unleashed upon San Francisco, where people are crazy and drivers are crazy and pedestrians are crazy and bicyclists are everywhere. So unfortunately, there's probably going to be an apology for that pretty soon.
Oh, there's going to be a death.
I hope not, but yeah, there should.
Yeah, there is.
Be an apology.
That's what the apology is going to be for. We're really sorry that we killed that person with our driverless car. We thought it was such a good idea.
Can you believe it? It's
you know what, though?
So unpredictable.
This is exactly what my great-grandparents were saying about the horseless carriage.
It might be.
Well, actually, they weren't wrong, though, now that I think about
it. Yeah, things have changed, man. All right, what else we got? Anything?
No, we don't have it. Well, we have the Oscars tonight. So my prediction, Jane Campion will win because she's the only woman. And then Will Smith will win because he is a great actor and a man.
All right, sounds fair. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next week live, so to speak, on the air, as always. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.